Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for your interest in the statistical seminar on propensity score analysis. This is my session. In my experiences, this session, we have the largest number of international participants. Thank you all for your interest in this topic. So let me turn on my screen. Let me share my screen. Okay. We are going to review a few topics for propensity score analysis basics. So today, basically, I will give you an overview and the history and the development of the methods. And then we will talk about conceptual models and assumptions embedded in two very important conceptual models. And then we will review two methods for today. Basically, the classical model, so-called propensity score greedy matching, and generalized boosted regression. GBR, generalized boosted regression, is a method, a robust method to estimate propensity scores. Tomorrow, we are going to review two methods, propensity score optimal matching and IPTW, also known as propensity score weighting estimator. On Saturday, US time, we will review Beatty and Invance matching estimators. And then I will give you a summary for the entire seminar. As you all know, statistical methods for program evaluation and causality analysis have undergone significant change over the past a few decades. If you take 1974 as a beginning time, 1974 is the time when Neyman-Rubin published his seminal paper on counterfactual framework. It has been half century. If you take 1983 as a beginning time, it has been 4 decades. 1983 is the time when Paul Rosenbaum and Don Rubin published their paper and first used the term propensity score analysis. Okay, so basically, this is the method researchers can use for program evaluation and for conducting any kind of causality analysis. If they want to draw causal inferences and they cannot use randomized clinical trials, this is one of the robust methods that can be used to correct for selection biases. I'm going to give you an overview to begin with. First, I'm going to talk about observational studies and challenges. Then I will discuss why and when propensity score analysis is needed. After that, I will give you an overview of important corrective methods. A few important textbooks may be useful. I and my co-author, Mark Frieder, published the book Propensity Score Analysis, second edition in 2015. There are other important books we think are useful. One is by Steve Morgan and Chris Winship, Counterfactuals and Causal Inference, Methods and Principles for Social Research, also second edition. Okay. In this book, the authors basically reviewed the counterfactual framework in details and described the major methods for propensity score analysis. Also, Paul Rosenbaum published the book in 2010, and he called this book as a design of observational studies. Prior to this book, he published the book called Observational Studies, 1995, first edition, and 2002, second edition. According to Rosenbaum, this 2010 book is a less technical version of the previous book on observational studies. Observational studies is an empirical investigation whose objective is to elucidate causal relations when it is infeasible to use randomized controlled trials. As we all know, the best method to evaluate treatment effects or to draw causal inferences is the randomized experiment developed by Fisher in 1936. Today, RCT remains to be the gold standard in program evaluation or in causal inferences in general. However, in many situations, researchers just cannot do RCT because of sometimes because we cannot create a control group. Sometimes randomized experiment is too expensive. So because of these problems, researchers must do so-called quasi-experiment. Quasi-experiment is also known as observational study. So basically, we use observational data, including survey data, census data, or administrative data. But the purpose of using these data sets is to draw causal inferences. So whenever you have a causal inferences as a central research question, but you cannot do RCT, propensity score analysis is one of the methods you must consider. And studies not using RCT are generally called observational studies. We all know this. Association is not the same as causation. This comes from famous three criteria, comes from Lazarsfeld in 1959. There are three criteria for a causal relation. If you say A causes B, these two variables must follow a temporal order. The cause must exist first. Okay, you have a temporal order. And then the two variables must be empirically correlated. Mostly important, the correlation is not spurious. So that really means when we control for common causes of these two variables, we still observe a higher level non-zero correlation between the two variables. If these two variables meet all these three criteria, we probably can say that there is a causal relation between these two variables. Many of us are doing program evaluation. The program evaluation basically aims to link the net differences observed in outcomes between treated and non-treated groups to the fact that one group used the intervention, used the treatment, and the other did not. So the crucial task here is to control for selection biases, to control for many other variables that affect cause and effect. Okay, so we call a study that controls for many selection biases as a study that have higher internal validity. So basically, internal validity refers to which extent the relationship researchers draw that is causal. So you are probably familiar with this framework by Cook and Campbell. They basically described 9 threats to internal validity. Okay, many of these threats are related to selection biases. Okay, although they use a different name, such as attrition, maturation, regression onto the mean, instrumentation, and testing effects. But basically, all the 9 threads center to the issue of selections. Why and when propensity score analysis is needed? Well, the first need is to remove selection biases. Okay, as I just mentioned, RCT is called gold standard. That really means when a federal agency approve a new method, a new medicine, new treatment program, they basically make the decision based on results coming from randomized clinical trial. Okay, but in social, behavioral, and health research, RCTs are not always practical, ethical, or even desirable. Under such conditions, we must use quasi-experimental design. In most instances, we have a problem of selection bias. Okay, so here is an example by Steve Morgan in 2001. And basically, he used propensity score matching to evaluate the function of Catholic schools. So basically, he studied whether or not the Catholic schools have true capacity to promote students' academic achievements, to promote students' learning capacities. There are many selections if you think about entering into the Catholic schools or private schools in general, and entering into the public schools. So in order to enter into the Catholic schools, you must pay high tuition, and the schools always have their own standards, so-called administrators' standards for admission. And also you have a geographic selection. Some Catholic schools do not exist in my area, so I cannot go to the Catholic schools. So after all these selections, researchers found that these 2 types of schools basically serve for 2 very different populations. Okay, so actually, we don't know whether or not it is the school that has the capacity to promote students' learning capacity, or it is the students who are different from the other group of students. Okay, so from Morgan's study, he basically used the propensity score matching, and he found that Catholic schools have marginal effects on promoting students' learning capacity. So marginal really means only for those who are marginal, who are less likely to enter into the Catholic schools, gain greatest from the Catholic schools. For the general students, no matter which schools they go, they always do a good job. Okay, so the Catholic schools only have the marginal effects. The second need for using PSA is technical. So basically, if we want to draw causal inference based on observational data, regression analysis suffers from a problem so-called endogeneity. So basically, whenever we have observational data, because of the selection, OLS, ordinary least square regression, often our data often violates a basic assumption embedded in the OLS regression. Okay, so basically in that regression model, so here is the equation. Okay, we have a W that is a group membership. W equals to 1, receive treatment, equals to 0, control. Okay, and then we add a series of control variables, X vector, into the equation. So this is called statistical control or regression control. So each time when we add an independent variable or a control variable to the X vector, we remove the covariation between W and Y. Every time we add a variable, we remove that association a little bit. Okay, so after all, when we entered all the important covariates to the X vector, the association associated with W, the regression coefficient tau associated with W is a net effect of W. Okay, so this is the idea of the statistical control. Okay, when our data come from randomized clinical trial, we often have the assumption met by our data. The crucial assumption of regression analysis is so-called exogeneity. So basically, it refers to the factor that the residual term E is not correlated with any independent variables, is not correlated with W. Okay. Whenever we have a selection bias, this assumption is typically violated. Okay. Suppose we have a treatment program that is to teach our participants do exercises. Okay. Suppose we cannot do RCT, so we put our program on the newspaper to recruit our participants. Suppose there are two groups of participants who are most likely to participate. The first group is those who have some health issues and they want to do the exercises to solve the problem. The second group basically sees the advantages of doing exercises. Suppose these two groups are most likely to participate. However, we, the researchers, don't know. So in our analysis, we typically would miss these two variables. One variable indicating a group who see the advantages of doing exercises. The other dummy variable is the participants who have health issues. If we don't include these two variables in the X vector, then where do they go? These two variables basically will go to the residual term E, okay? So that the residual term E is correlated with the W because of the selection, okay? So if we omitted these two variables, we run into the problem so-called endogeneity, okay? The endogeneity is the same problem as selection. In social behavioral research, there are many selections. This figure comes from famous econometrician Mandela. So you can see we first divided into the total sample into two groups. Individuals who decided to participate and individuals who decided not to participate, self-selection. And then only for those who decided to participate, we also have administrators' decision in the selection. Okay, the participants must meet criteria for admission. And then for those who met administrators' decision for selection, we divided the total group into two, control group and the treatment group. Okay, and finally, in each group, we would have some participants who drop out, attrition. So attrition is never random. Participants must have good reasons to decide whether or not they will continue the treatment or they decided not to continue. Okay, so after all these selections, our final data set is so-called observational data. And the researchers must pay attention to sources of the selections and must do so-called balance check or imbalance check on all the covariates available to them. Okay, if selection is a significant problem, and then we must consider some corrective methods in the data analysis. Ordinary least square regression is not the best choice. You must do something, such as propensity score analysis, and then you can continue to run regression. So the advantage of PSA is it is easy to understand. I think when we use propensity score, we still can run regression. Most of the methods, outcome analysis, after we do the propensity score matching, propensity score subclassification, or propensity score weighting, we still run basically regression model. Okay, so it's easy to communicate the results with our readers. Okay, that's the advantage. That's why propensity score, comparing to other methods, is a robust and efficient method. Okay, now I'm going to give you an overview of corrective methods. So I'm going to highlight a few important methods developed over the past 4 decades. Okay, overview. The first model, and a very important model I would like to highlight, is the Heckman's sample selection model, developed in 1976, 1978, and 1979. James Heckman, professor of economics from University of Chicago, and he won the Nobel Prize for developing this model in year 2000. And actually, there have been 3 great economists who won the Nobel Prize. In addition to James Heckman, we have Joshua Angrist, who won the Nobel Prize in year 2021, and Guido Imbens, who won the Nobel Prize also in 2021. Joshua basically developed the instrumental variable approach, a method whose aim is very similar to propensity score analysis. Okay, I will give you some ideas, some highlight about that model pretty soon. Guido Imbens, who developed many methods for propensity score analysis, and we will review many of his works from this seminar. Okay, so this is amazing. This field has produced 3 Nobel Prize winners, and that all of these are significant contributions to our field. So Heckman's model basically is one of the few methods, or one of the few corrective methods that can choose for hidden selections. He basically developed a 2-step estimator. So the first step is to run a selection regression. So we use the dummy variable, use versus not use treatment as a dependent variable. And we put all the variables affecting the selection in the selection equation. And then the second step is to run the outcome regression. The crucial idea of a sample selection model is Heckman developed a method carefully study the residual term of the selection equation. So basically, he extracted 2 important statistics from the residual of the sample selection equation. One is the variance of the error. The other is so-called inverse Mills ratio, also known as hazard of non-selection. And then he used these 2 pieces of information to analyze the outcome regression. In the second step, in estimate outcome regression coefficients, he just applied the two pieces of information from the residual of the sample selection model and use these two pieces of information to correct for the endogeneity problem in the outcome regression. Okay, so this model basically very innovative. The greatest wisdom of this model is it controls for, to some extent, it controls for hidden selections. Because residual term of the sample selection model basically that's a hidden selection, unobserved heterogeneity. Okay, lump sum residual term is a lump sum of unobserved or omitted variables. Okay, so to some extent, Heckman's model is one of the few methods that controls for hidden selections. Okay, the selection equation basically is similar to the model propensity score matching 5 years later, developed by Paul Rosenbaum and Donald Rubin. Okay, so basically Heckman used the dummy variable as the dependent variable for the selection equation. Okay, and he didn't use he used the linear probability model. He didn't use logistic regression. Later on, Rosenbaum and Rubin used the logistic regression. Heckman didn't call the outcome variable as a propensity score, but that is exactly the same idea as a propensity score model, as the logistic regression. Okay. However, the purpose of running the selection equation, running the selection regression is completely different. His purpose is to use the residual term to obtain two pieces of information, and use them to correct for the endogeneity problem of the outcome regression. Okay, so that is the very first model. The same idea as a propensity score analysis to control for the selection biases, but this is one of the few methods that controls for hidden selections. Because this model is so popular, we are not going to discuss the model in this seminar. But in our book, in my book with Fraser, we put one chapter to discuss the structure, the principles of sample selection. This is Paul Rosenbaum, professor of UPenn. This is Donald Rubin, professor of statistics from Harvard University. Okay, so in 1983, these two authors developed, published propensity score matching and related models. Okay, so this set of the models, basically I put them together, all based on the seminal paper published in 1983. Okay, in year 2002, Rosenbaum developed optimal matching, okay, which we will discuss tomorrow. And also, researchers also developed, based on the 1983 paper, covariance control. They also developed propensity score weighting, IPTW, inverse probability of treatment weight estimator, IPTW estimator, also known as propensity score weighting. Okay. Based on this same paper, researchers also developed the methods to analyze continuous treatment variable. In many applications, we always deal with, most often we deal with binary treatment condition. Treatment versus control, two conditions. But we could also have some continuous or multiple categories of the treatment conditions. So this type of analysis using propensity scores are called dosage analysis. treatment dosage analysis. Okay, so the 1983 paper basically laid down the foundation for all these types of the propensity score models. The fundamental problem of propensity score, the fundamental problem of a matching. Okay, so why we should use propensity score matching rather than exact matching? In the early days, when Fisher developed a randomized clinical trial, many researchers try to use the exact matching to solve the problem of endogeneity. So basically, based on the known characteristics of our participants, we match. So if John, who is a boy, who is 6 years old, and who is an African American from a treatment group, we go to the control group. If the two groups do not balance on covariates, so we go to the control group to find David. David also share these characteristics as John, who is also a boy, who is 6 years old, and who is also an African American. And we take out these two participants and put them in a matched sample. And we keep doing this procedure until we extract all the relevant participants in the matched sample. This is called exact matching. Exact matching suffers from the problem of dimensionality. When the number of covariates increases, and then we would have many possible combinations of those variables, and exact matching quickly fails. Rosenbaum basically showed that if we have 20 variables, even though each variable is a dichotomous variable, the number of possible combinations of these 20 variables is more than 1 million. So that's a 2 times 2 times 2, or 2 raised to the power of 20. We would have more than 1 million possible combinations of these 20 variables. So even though we have a large sample, 1,000 cases, or even 10,000 cases, 100,000 cases, still our sample or matched sample cannot capture all the possible combinations. So some participants are ruled out from the matched sample. So to deal with this dimensionality problem, okay, to deal with this dimensionality problem, propensity score analysis basically try to combine all these variables into one score, propensity score. Okay, so basically we can run a logistic regression and put all those 20 variables as predictors in the logistic regression. And then we save the model predicted probabilities after we run the model. Okay, and the model predicted probability, also known as a conditional probability of receiving treatment, is just one score. Okay, it's a summary of the joint distribution of all the independent variables used in the model. Okay, so we can do the matching based on this one score instead of each individual score, each individual variable of the 20 variables. We have a one score. Okay, so that's the advantage of the propensity score. And all the models, including greedy matching, optimal matching, propensity score weighting, propensity score subclassification, and propensity score dosage analysis, can be thought as methods coming from the 1983 paper of Rosenbaum and Rubin. Okay, so basically in that paper, the authors basically proved statistical properties of this unidimensional score, the properties of propensity score. Basically, they used the theory to prove the nice properties of Wien score. The third model I would like to highlight is so-called matching estimators, developed by Abedi and Ingbenz. This is Abedi, professor of political sciences at Harvard University. And this is Ingbenz, professor of economics from Stanford University. And Ingbenz won the Nobel Prize in 2021. So these two authors developed matching estimators. So basically, based on the counterfactual framework, they developed the matching estimator. The method here estimates the potential outcome at the individual level as a first step. So the counterfactual framework basically assumes that all participants of our study have two outcomes. One is observed, one is potential, unobserved. Okay. So for a treatment case, observed is the outcome under the condition of receiving treatment. And there is also a potential outcome. What would have happened to the treated case had he or she not used the treatment under the control condition? And similarly, for the control participant, we also have two outcomes. One is observed. For a control case, that's the outcome under the control condition. And the counterfactual framework also assumes that for a control case, they all have another type of outcome, potential outcome. What would have happened? What would have happened had the control cases used the treatment? So Abedi and Ingbenz basically said, why not? We just impute the missing data of the potential outcome. Okay, so that at the individual level, we have both values of the outcome non-zero, non-missing. Okay, so basically that's the same idea, similar idea as missing data imputation, to impute the potential outcome for both treated and control cases. However, the logic, the statistical principles of this imputation are very different from other missing data imputation methods, different from multiple imputations, different from maximum likelihood estimation, full information maximum likelihood estimation, different from EM methods. Okay, so these are very specific missing data imputation. So basically, Abedi and Ingbenz developed the methods to impute the missing data at the individual level. And then, based on these two values, observed and imputed outcomes, we can compute 6 different treatment effects. Okay. The greatest contributions made by Abedi and Ingbenz for this method is the development of estimation for the standard errors. So for each one of the 6 treatment effects, we have a formula to compute the standard errors. Okay, so that researchers can perform significance tests. So that's the matching estimators. One of the contributions made by Ingbenz that led him to win the Nobel Prize. The fourth model I'm going to review is so-called propensity score analysis with non-parametric regression, developed by Heckman, Ichimura, and Todd. So this is Ichimura, professor of economics at Tokyo University. And this is Patrick Todd, professor of economics from UPenn, University of Pennsylvania. Okay, so in 1997 and 1998, these authors developed propensity score matching with a non-parametric regression. This method is also known as kernel-based matching. So it basically applied local linear regression with tricubar kernel. It uses local linear regression with tricubar kernel in the matching. Okay, so LOIS, local linear regression with tricubar kernel, is also called LOIS. LOIS was a method developed by economists originally for the analysis of time series data. So these authors, led by Heckman, were very innovative. They applied the method for analysis of time series to propensity score matching. Okay, so basically this method is a one-to-all matching. Okay, so throughout this seminar, you will see the challenges in propensity score matching. You could do one-to-one match. Okay, for each treated case, we can use the propensity score to find matched cases from the control group, one-to-one, or one-to-n match. One-to-n match, basically, n here is a fixed number. Once you decide what the number is, you must stick to it. You must, if we decide n is 5, so you must find 5 matches for each treated case, 1 to 5. So here we use a fixed number in the matching. The ratio of treated over control could also be a variable. So you would think that a fixed number sometimes is too arbitrary, right? That's based on the researcher's idea, and sometimes we made a mistake. So we basically can use the real data based on our data, and then let the statistical mechanism, let the statistical procedure to determine the ratio, number of matches for each treated case. So the ratio could be ratio of treated versus control could be a variable. Okay, that is precisely the idea of optimal matching, which we will discuss tomorrow. Okay, so you use a variable. How many control cases are used as a match for a treated case? That's the information should be determined by our data. So the algorithm of optimal matching basically is a process that uses a variable ratio in the matching process. Here, propensity score with non-parametric matching. This method basically is a one-to-all matching. So for each treated cases, we use the information of outcome variable for all the participants of the control group to estimate the counterfactual. Okay, so according to Heckman, this method is a one-to-all match. Okay, also very innovative. Okay, so these are the basic ideas or important models, corrective models developed in the past a few decades. So all these methods, I would call them as a propensity score analysis. Propensity score analysis is one of several corrective methods that can be used for observational studies. Okay, as I just said, this method, the advantage of this method is you basically run regression analysis, and then you communicate with your audience, with your readers in a friendly fashion. So basically, the results are easy to be communicated with our audience. Okay, that's the advantage of propensity score analysis. Certainly, there are other methods available, such as these methods I listed here in this slide. Okay, first we have instrumental variables approaches. IV, instrumental variable approach, is the second most popular methods in economic analysis. Waldridge basically made that statement, and he thought that the instrumental variable approach is the second most popular method. The first is regression. The second is IV. So as I just mentioned, Joshua Angrist from MIT basically made tremendous contributions to the instrumental variable approach. Okay, very famous papers published by them in 1996, 1991, and 1990 basically laid down the basic idea of instrumental variable approach. So a crucial idea of an instrumental variable approach is it allows us to study very different kinds of treatment effects. We have a treatment effect for the treated. We have a treatment effect for the whole population, for the whole sample, for the whole population. We also have a marginal treatment effects, right? But according to Angrist, instrumental variable approach allows us to analyze a very special type of treatment effects, so-called later. That's a local average treatment effect, LATE, local average treatment effect. So in that analysis, researchers basically can use the instrumental variable method to see compliance with the treatment assignment. Compliance with the treatment assignment is also a very important issue. Okay, so in many programs, researchers found that participants did not comply with the treatment assignment. Okay, so that is a bigger problem for causality analysis. So IV basically allows us to study precisely late local average treatment effect. We could also run regression discontinuity design. Invance wrote several papers on that topic. That is also a great extension of classical regression model. We could also do interrupted time series design. We could also run Bayesian approach, use the Bayesian method. This method basically is growing. Okay, many new developments use the Bayesian approach for the causal inference. So basically, it's a MCMC procedure to estimate the posterior distribution. Okay, we could also have marginal structural models. So that's the model developed by James Robbins. Marginal structural models basically allows us to estimate time-varying treatment condition. I just mentioned, in practice, we have different kinds of treatment conditions. The most popular one is binary, two conditions. We could also have more than two categories of the treatment conditions. Okay, and also the treatment condition could be a time-varying covariate. The status of the treatment changes over time. Okay. So to study the time-varying treatment conditions, Robbins developed marginal structural models. And finally, we have the famous model developed by Judy Pearl. In 2000, he published the famous book called Causality, second edition. And also he published the book about the book of why. Okay, very famous books. And this is the scholar who really made greatest contribution to causality analysis. He is a computer scientist, and basically his major was AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. But he found from his work limitations and weakness of the classical AI method. These problems led him to go to the study about the causality. And he developed the method that will come back, that will allow computer scientists to develop the best AI models. Okay, so Pearl basically made a tremendous contribution for both causality analysis and AI. The method he developed was the so-called directed acyclic graph, DAG, directed acyclic graphs. Okay, and in the causality book, he basically described this method in details. So all these methods we call as corrective models can be used to solve the problem of endogeneity, to solve the problem of selection biases. Okay, propensity score analysis is just one of several corrective models. But you will see from this seminar that propensity score analysis is robust and very efficient. Okay. Software packages for propensity score analysis. This is the website. Let me show you the website. This is a website developed by Elizabeth Stodd. Very useful. So let me show you the website. Yeah. So basically, no, not this one. This one. Okay. So basically, Elizabeth in this website listed all the programs or currently available programs using different software packages, using R, using Stata. R and Stata are the most popular packages that offer propensity score analysis. Okay, so she basically listed programs in these software packages, and also SAS and SPSS and other sensitivity analysis packages. Okay, so this is I think it's a comprehensive list for the programs currently available. We also developed software packages for propensity score analysis. So basically, there is a website. So in your notebook, I don't know which page is this. Okay, in the very beginning of your notebook, this is the website. Okay, click here. You can get the syntax and the data sets for all examples used in our book. In the book 2015, I and Fraser wrote propensity score analysis, second edition. So basically, you can find all the examples, syntax and data sets for all examples used in our book. We offer two types of the packages. One is using the Stata. So that's the all listed here, all by the chapters of our book. Okay. And also we have the R syntax. Okay, so you can download the zip file, the two zip files. You can get the original code, and also you can get the HTML output. Okay. For this seminar, you can get the syntax from your notebook, but also if you want to run all the examples I'm going to discuss for this seminar come from our book. Okay, so you can go to the original website to download the data file and the syntax. Okay. Finally, for the R and Stata programs, we here have a list of the main packages available. Yeah, this is your notebook. Yeah. Okay. So also based on our book, we listed all the programs in Stata and R that can be used to do propensity score analysis. We organize those programs by the chapters of our book. Okay. So these are the basic information about the software. Up to date, Stata and R remain to be the most comprehensive packages that allow us to do the propensity score analysis. Okay, that's why in the end of the day, for each day, we will split the entire classrooms into two groups. We will do the computer lab. We will do illustration of the software package by using Stata and using R.